Welcome to the Allelys Podcast, then, where we take you inside the people, projects and thinking behind one of the UK's leading specialist transport and heavy lift businesses. Now, this episode, we're going to explore what it really takes to deliver specialist transport, heavy lift and heavy haulage projects on the ground with two people who work for Allelys. Before we kind of get into it, we should do the formal introductions. Go on then. Trot out the names and your big titles that you've got as well with Allelys. Who's going first?
You can go first, Ash.
So my name's Angelo Mastropietro and I'm an installations operative.
Nice. Okay. And?
I'm Aziz and I am a site supervisor for Allelys.
Now, before we get into the main thing, talking about your roles, Ash, with Allelys, Ash, what's it like working with a celebrity? Because, of course, he's done grand designs. He's been on the telly. He's a bit famous, isn't he, really?
It's a little bit overwhelming, if I'm honest.
I thought it might be, yeah.
You sort of get used to the autographs and stuff like that. Then when there's a job to get done, got to rein it in a little bit after me.
Does he switch his media personality off when you have to get
permanently on. It's permanently on.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, permanently on.
What's it like then working for Allelys as a celebrity? You must be like the focal point when you're out and about.
I certainly wouldn't describe myself as that at all. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it. I really do. Feel fully engaged. It really excites me, lights me up inside. I look forward to going to work each day, which I think is a very, very lucky position to be in.
We should talk about how you're famous, because just in case anybody's watching and they go, what's this guy famous for? I mean, it's the Hobbit house, basically, that you created, really. Is that what it's called? Grand Designs?
Yeah, I created a cave house, the Rock House Retreat, that was featured on Channel 4's Grand Designs.
And do you still own that as well?
I still own it, yeah, for sure. So I've rented it as a holiday let for, I guess, 10 years now.
Wow.
But I didn't ever aspire to run a holiday let, so I kind of fell into the heavy lifting industry. I had a client that I did some consultancy work for about 10 years ago, and that was essentially to facilitate the process of them working towards an exit strategy, which involved them recruiting a team so they as directors could step back from the business. And then they contacted me and asked for some additional help for a project, and I ended up going along and working on site for initially 2 or 3 weeks to help him out, and I loved it so much I ended up staying there 5.5 months, and then collectively over the next 5 years went back as a subcontractor, moving machines and doing various other projects in heavy lifting. And so subsequently, further down the track, when I was looking at what I was going to do next, I reflected, and that was really what I enjoyed the most, being outside and working in heavy lifting, and had heard Allelys mentioned time and time again amongst the teams I'd worked with. And so sent an email through the website, and here I am.
No, what, an email through the website, and here you are? That's
sure,
incredible. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's an amazing way to get in the business, really, isn't it? You think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was their kind of reputation, I think, and the fact that the people I'd worked with, that I'd spoken to and asked who they felt were market leaders, and Allelys were a name that came up time and time again. And I went off to study. I had some time at university, and studied coaching there. And part of that was that we were being coached. And that process made me realise that, I didn't really want to be sat in front of a laptop anymore or staring at a screen, and that the things that I'd enjoy most were really being out on site, working with all these kind of, toys essentially, and following this kind of process towards the end goal. So yeah, here I am, and I didn't think it would lead to being sat in front of a microphone.
You just can't stay away from the media. That's what it is. You just got like a magnet. It's an interesting story as to how you got into the industry. Ash, what about you? What brought you to
it? So I think my work and career started off in the military. Served in the army, served overseas, and my dad was in the lifting industry, and a company that he worked for, they said, if you ever come out the army, there's a job here for you. So when I come to the end of my time in the army, I made that phone call, said, remember when you said you'd help me out? He said, yeah. I said, right, let's see if you can follow through. And he did. So I spent probably 8 years at that company. That's probably where I learnt my craft, mastered my craft. And then it wasn't sort of given that fire in my stomach anymore. I wanted to try and move on to bigger and better things, lifting bigger things, working with bigger cranes. I sort of wouldn't say I'd mastered cranes, but I'd worked with a good variety of cranes through all different industries, different sectors. And I enjoyed jacking and skidding, getting things into places that people say that can't be done. And Allelys, you do a lot of it. So I applied, they accepted, and here they are.
So you've given us both the big title, but if somebody like me outside the industry is going, right, what does that actually mean? How would you describe what you do to somebody outside the industry? Because you could throw loads of like, I do this and I do, and I'd be like, okay, yeah. And I've gone, I don't know what this is exactly. So how would you describe, I know you mentioned about being on site and stuff and playing with big toys. I kind of go, oh yeah, sort of get that a little bit. But what does a day look like that I might go, I get this?
I mean, a day for us is essentially we're at the end, the kind of pointy end of the process. So Allelys as a company provide a total logistics solution from port right the way through to site where the load gets installed. So we are installations, and our role, our day typically looks like we have documentation, we have a method statement, we have drawings that's produced by our team of expert engineers, and it's our role to follow this process, follow it methodically,
execute the
step by step, and essentially set up everything, all the equipment, in order to execute the task and put the load wherever it needs to be.
It is a hard one though, isn't it? Because if you meet people for the first time at a party and they're like, what do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah, you go, well, what do I do? How do I describe that in a way that they'll go, I get this, It's tough,
the easiest thing to do is just get your phone out and say, that's what I do there.
Oh, get on the YouTube channel, is it?
Yeah, or, videos or pictures that you've took whilst you're in work, and say, you can't describe it, there's that much to it.
Should we go like a little bit deeper then into your roles? So supervisor or operator, what do you actually do? What does a day look like, and how would you describe that?
I think as a supervisor, you're there as the buffer zone between the clients, it's your team, and say project manager and engineer. Mm-hmm. You're there to facilitate everything to be, if the client has a problem, you solve it. If you can't solve it, you'll go to the project manager. He'll then give you the solution, you'll solve it. On site, you're there to make sure they're working safely. Just make sure everyone's playing their part, everyone's pulling in the same direction.
Would you kind of echo that from your sort of side of things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things I like about working at Allelys is the, although the role of supervisor has a degree of grandiose, everybody is kind of hands-on, and the supervisors lead by example, and that, from my own experience, filters down to people amongst the team. So when the people come on board, there's this great kind of energy. People are very passionate about what we do, and people are kind of bought into the end goal of, delivering excellence and following this process on time. I can think of one project where, due to no fault of our own, it was a busy site, and the haulage were unable to unload the wagons where they needed to be at the transshipment area and the installations area, and all of our equipment got unloaded on a car park. So what that meant, through no fault of our own, was that equipment needed to be shuttled up, so we were behind. But testimony to the kind of passion and commitment from the installations team is, over the course of the subsequent weeks, as we were installing multiple transformers, we managed to pull that time back. You led that project, Ash, if I remember, and I think that is it's real testimony to the culture of the business and the caliber of people that they engage.
It's an interesting one, because I suppose you have that plan when you go into a project, and especially the scale and the size of the machines that you're working with. You've got to have that really careful, well-executed plan. But stuff changes, I guess.
The environment changes.
Yeah.
What was there yesterday won't be there today. What wasn't there is now in the way, and stuff like that. So it's a very dynamic job, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
You've got to be not 2 or 3 steps ahead. You've got to be 4 or 5 steps ahead.
Are you kind of always thinking, right, I'm going to have to come up with a creative solution to try and make this work, and how are we going to do that, but also do it safely? And as you say, excellence delivered is a big part of what you do at Allelys, so sticking to that at the same time. There must be quite a lot of pressure, I guess, involved in the job, is there? Do you feel that pressure?
I think everyone handles pressure in different ways. Some people rise to it, some people may crumble underneath it, but you're only as good as the people that you've got around you. And I'm very, very fortunate, as I'd say 99% of the jobs I've been on, I've always got good lads around me. If I'm having that flaw or that mind blank, the lads are there. They come up with, if I can't come up with a solution, they'll come up with solutions. You put all them ideas in that pot and you get the best one out of it. That's it.
That's a good way of looking at it, because otherwise you could feel it's all on you to come up with these solutions, and that's when the pressure, I suppose, feels a little bit much sometimes, doesn't it? I suppose. But so, what does a good day on site look like? I know that's kind of where your passion is, being on site.
Good question.
Always starts with breakfast at 7, doesn't it?
Yeah,
good breakfast to start with. Okay, yeah. So, what does a good breakfast look like? Are we talking full English or?
No, I'm a 3 poached eggs man, but I've had to condition myself. Eating at 6:30 in the morning is not something that I would choose to do. Really, I prefer to eat when I'm hungry. But,
fair enough. But you've got to get something on board, haven't you? A bit of fuel.
I think that's another conversation, isn't it?
That's another podcast, that one.
Okay, so 3 poached eggs. What are we talking about?
I'm just porridge and coffee. That'll do.
And then you're good to go. Okay, so we've started with a good breakfast.
Yeah.
What does a good day look like? Is there a certain type of project that you go, I'm really excited about?
I'm kind of picturing, preferably with sunshine, blue skies, preferably near the ocean. But,
nice,
but apart from that, I think it's just a good day for me. It's about...
Starts with a good brief, doesn't it?
Yeah. Toolbox talk, good energy, good banter, laughs, fun, momentum, energy, productivity, passion, maybe music. If that's
music
allowed.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
We've had a few. Yeah.
True.
That must be an interesting conversation on site with lots of people on there going, like, what type of music are we listening to?
So you've got to narrow it down. You say 80s or 90s.
Okay, right.
That's it. 80s or 90s.
Right.
He always picks the power ballads.
Really?
Is he? You wouldn't imagine it. You wouldn't imagine it.
So yeah, I mean, I like the energy of working on site. I like the nature of what we do. And, the culture of the company, the lads are very bought into the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's the enthusiasm, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure,
It's very contagious. And if you can give that enthusiasm to the other people with you, you'll get it back from them.
So come with energy, come with enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Once you've had your 3 poached eggs, yeah.
3 coffees.
A few coffees, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are the kind of things people probably don't realise, perhaps you have to think about before a heavy lift or a specialist job, in terms of transport? Because I guess people probably think, and certainly I might, well, you've got a plan, you've got the equipment, you get the job done. That's kind of it, isn't it? There's obviously more to it than that. So are there sort of details that people might not realise, the kind of things that you go into?
Yeah, it's if you're skidding a transformer, 20 meters, it's not just one person pressing a button and that moves across. You've got to put people in the right places. Everyone's got to be having each other's back. Same with if you're doing a lift, it's not one person telling the crane driver what to do. It's your team around you looking out, making sure everything's going as it should do. I think our job solely comes down to teamwork.
Yeah.
That's it.
Let's talk about variety then. Because, I suppose you might think perhaps it's just the same kind of thing day in, day out. But I imagine every project not only is different from the last one, but also different days, different things to do within that project. So is variety a big part of what you do, big part of life?
I'd say so, yeah. You could be working on a new build substation that might not be live. You could be working on an existing substation that is live. We've worked on substations that are underground, essentially, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the environment is always changing, and you've just got to adapt to it.
And I think the nature of the project's changed as well. Like, I've sat here thinking about my favourite projects. I think it's probably when we went to, I think it was Leeds, is it Cranshaw Bridge?
Yeah.
And we essentially lifted out this heritage cast iron working railway bridge.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it was just that just very interesting, something slightly different. But I think, and then there was another job where I worked on, we were installing this kind of rotor into a power station, which wasn't heavy by Allelys standards. However, just the methodology and the way that it was approached keeps it interesting, keeps it fresh.
You're always engaged. You're never doing the same thing twice.
No.
You might be doing the same thing twice, I should say, but it's where you're doing it, how you're doing it, and stuff like that. That's always, it keeps me engaged, it really does.
Well, those two examples, I mean, they're so vastly different from each other already, aren't they? And is that the kind of variety that you tend to deal with, that you go, okay, what have we got next? God, we're going to be up there in Scotland, we're doing this, we're doing that. So literally you could be anywhere and lifting anything to a certain degree, couldn't you? Which is interesting. So let's talk about the kind of examples of projects, especially unusual, memorable or challenging. And I know you've mentioned that railway bridge, I think, is a really interesting one. Is there another one that kind of sticks in your mind that you kind of go, that was an interesting one because it was so different, but also there was a challenge involved as well?
Yeah, I think for me, it was one of the first projects I'd done when I started at Allelys. It was a railway bridge again, but it was a new build railway bridge, and it spanned across 6 lanes of motorway.
Oh.
So we were there for probably 6 weeks, building trailers, building the jacks, lifting it up, SPMTs underneath. And then it was a nighttime move, so the motorway was closed. And then you just see this massive bridge, you could say, coming out the middle of nowhere and going up the motorway. And, you know, I was thinking to myself, I'm proud of this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because that's a huge job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about moving something so massive, but then there's the road closures, getting the people in the right place. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts for a job like that, I guess. Have you got one like that as well? Is there a project that kind of sticks in your mind?
I think, the railway bridge project has definitely been my favourite because it's slightly different to the projects I'd worked on before. Where I worked on another project that was in the centre of London, and due to it being in a very tight space, it was particularly challenging, and it was very kind of physically challenging, I think. But it was, the reason I enjoyed it was because the energy amongst the team I was working with, that everybody was really kind of bought in, leaning in, committed to the end goal. The client was fabulous. And even though it was probably a standout for the amount of effort required, it was very rewarding at the end, and we got some lovely feedback from the client. And that was one that's stand out for myself.
Must be interesting working in places like London or just big cities generally, because it's just a whole different atmosphere, I imagine, isn't it? And in terms of time and space that you've got to operate in, that must be a whole different challenge to, say, working in the middle of nowhere. So that variety kind of comes back, doesn't it, really? How do you kind of approach those ones in the sort of built up areas? Or is it all kind of the same of, we've got this project, we've got a plan, we know what we've got to deliver, and that's fine?
I mean, it's the process is the same. You know, we have this, very comprehensive document, this method statement, and it's really our role as installations team to follow it methodically in order to execute the end goal. So I don't know that the logistics necessarily or where it's located impacts the job itself. The mechanics are the same. However, it's lovely if we're working near the coast, because maybe, like this week I've been up in Scotland running on the beach every day, swimming in the sea. And, I think that life doesn't get any better than that. If you can have a job that you love and, people that you enjoy hanging out with outside of work as well, then it's a beautiful place to be.
That leads quite nicely onto our next section about teamwork, safety and communication. Because when you're on a job, communication between the team, that must be vital, but it must also bring its challenges as well, because, you've got huge pieces of equipment. You're not all necessarily stood next to each other. So talking to each other must be quite difficult, I guess.
It is, especially when you're on the power pack and stuff like that. It's a loud engine stuff. So you sort of, I'll have my main brief in the morning, and then what I'll do throughout the day is I'll have mini briefs, mini toolbox talks. So before we get to a significant point, get the team right. This is what we're going to do now. When you're happy, you let him know, he lets me know. And it's just making sure no one's guessing what you should be doing. Everyone's clear,
Mm.
and then everything just flows nice then.
Do you find that as well when you're on the
definitely.
machine?
Definitely, communication is key, and I think you set the standards, set the expectations, the intentions at the beginning, and then subsequently, communicate clearly. We're all putting an enormous amount of trust in one another. We all have a duty of care, not just to ourselves, but to our colleagues and to the client, to the business. And I think that that's very important, and that comes through in the way that we work and the outcome.
Safety is obviously a big part of what you do as well, especially when you're working on such big projects, which, I mean, I guess is tightly intertwined with communication. So how do you make sure that safety is very much front of mind without also slowing the job down? Because it can become a barrier, I guess, to a certain degree if you haven't perhaps got it right at the beginning. So how do you kind of work through that?
It probably comes on to my last one is having those mini briefs. If no one's sure, just ask. If you're thinking that they're not sure, explain it, demonstrate it, and that's it really. There's no qualifications, as to say, on how to do our job. It's time saved. Taught from the lads who were doing it 10, 20 years before you. So it's just try and give that knowledge and disperse as much of that knowledge as you can. Them little teething problems that you had, or myself, when I started in this side of the industry, rather than them finding out for themselves, just tell them the little tricks of the trade, you could say. Them little things that make your life easier, isn't it?
Mm. Is an ideal job then basically that it goes exactly to plan, or is that impossible because stuff happens? Just that's life, isn't it, I guess?
I'd say, yeah, that's, you can have the engineering down to a T, the meta statement down to a T, but then things could change on site. Like I said, what wasn't there last week is now, somebody could have dug a hole, you could say. That's now an obstacle for you. It's how you overcome them obstacles and just keep moving forward.
How would an ideal day look like? I mean, do you like it when you get on site and actually you've got the plan and it goes completely to it, or do you like a few spanners thrown in just to keep it interesting?
I like both. I like both. I do. I just like the feeling of kind of moving forward, of momentum. I do like it when, I guess, there's a mental challenge, when maybe there's something that needs a bit of attention. I like to get involved with, marking it out, looking at the drawings, and so just so I've got that kind of depth of understanding. So if there's maybe a point where things slow, there's a slight lull, maybe we're waiting for something, that I know what the next steps are of the project, just to move it forward and be useful where I can.
Let's talk about Allelys then, and how it's grown and developed, and especially I think over the last few years things have changed. I didn't ask at the beginning actually how long you've been part of the company. So how long are we talking?
I think I've been there maybe 10 months.
Have you seen much change during your 10 months?
Yeah, massively. Yeah,
talk us
sure.
through that. How it's sort of evolved.
I think, myself, since I've came on board, and so certainly when I spoke to people and worked in the industry previously, it feels like Allelys as a company are becoming, ready to to grow again and to be on this kind of accelerated growth path. There's lots of positive change. They've recruited some very impressive people in the kind of corporate part of the business. There's people in the business now that are responsible for the training and skills development of people within the teams, which is one of the things that appealed to myself. So in the 10 months I've been there, I think I've had maybe 40 days of training. Maybe I needed it. But, I think that's testimony to their commitment to delivering excellence. And there's this kind of culture. People are very kind of bought in and approach things very professionally, which is not something that I think is maybe, part of the culture of heavy lifting. Certainly not something I'd experienced in my previous 2-3 years as a subcontractor.
What about you, Ash? How long have you been with Allelys?
It'll be coming up to 2 years this year. think when I started in the installations project side, there was probably 6 or 7 of us then. Now, we've probably got a team of 22.
Wow.
So I've seen a massive change. I've seen a change in the investments that they're making in the equipment that they've got. I think that's a big plus for me. I think what I like about Allelys is the solutions that they have. Everything's engineered, manufactured and made in-house. So everything that we have on site, it's all made in-house. So to me, they're fully self-sustainable, self-sufficient.
Yeah.
If there is a problem, they'll just fabricate a solution. And I really like that. I really do.
Have the kind of projects changed over your time as well, in terms of where you were right at the beginning of your 2-year stint?
I wouldn't say the projects have changed. I think the amount of projects have changed. We've definitely got busier within the last 12 months. It's a good sign. It shows that the company's doing the right thing. People are coming to Allelys for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
We are probably the only one turnkey solutions company that can do everything. We can offload, transport and install.
Yeah. And that money, it seems that there's a commitment to reinvesting it back into the company, as I mentioned, training, but also, buying more equipment, more assets, more cranes, more girder frames. I think the company now has 10 girder frames. So, if they've got those out every weekend, then that's, that's an incredible amount of...
it's an achievement in itself, isn't it?
For sure.
Let's talk about excellence delivered then, because that's something that's cropped up a few times during this episode already, and certainly in previous ones. And this is obviously something that runs right from top to bottom in Allelys. So if we're talking about that phrase, excellence delivered, what does it mean to you personally?
I think excellence delivered is, for me, it's a commitment from myself. It's how I show up. It's a commitment to the business, to our clients, to my colleagues. And it's about doing things properly, professionally, following the method statement, doing things safely. And I think that is, you feel it in the business. You feel that energy and that commitment. So it's, I think it's a good thing.
Ash, for you?
I think for me, it's a little bit of what Angelo said, in having that personal pride in what you do. But I think for myself more so, it's giving our clients that feeling of when you finish the job that nobody else could have done that better. That's for me is when you've arrived at that first day on the job, and then when you leave on the last day, all wagons are loaded, all equipment's gone. That customer knows, or the clients, that nobody else could have executed that job better than how we just did. That for me is excellence delivered. You
might well have covered this already in those answers, actually, but in terms of standards that you expect from yourself and also the team, that when you're on site, when you're representing Allelys, is excellence delivered? What does that actually look like in practice? How do you talk about that and deliver when you're in terms of projects?
You probably do it without realising. It's how you turn up to work presentable, with the right attitude, with the right mindset. It's how you set yourself to work. And it's how you finish work.
Do you kind of echo that, Angelo?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that resonates with me. And I think it's about, Ash and I are probably similar in the way that we think about how we approach work and the shadow we cast on site and off site. It's about, because that has this kind of chameleon effect, this energy. And it's about leading by example, I feel, and coherence, agency, being responsible. We all have a duty of care and responsibility to taking it kind of seriously.
So here's a question for you, and this might feel like a tough one. Right, so if a customer was watching you start to finish on a project, what would you kind of want them to feel walking away from that? How would you go? What would you want them to say about you guys particularly, and also Allelys as a company?
You'd want them to be confident that what you're doing for them is you're the best at it. There's no one else you can compete or do what you're doing to the level and standard of what you're doing. You just, you don't want them to sit there watching you thinking, oh, why are they doing that? Or why are they doing this? You want them to sit there and enjoy watching what you're doing, from 7 till 5 or whatever hours you work that day. You want them to sit there and just enjoy that show what you're providing for them for that day.
And I think for them to have peace of mind, and I think when I go to work and representing Allelys, I would like the client to be delighted to the point that should they be in a position again where they are looking for another team to do another installation, that they would specifically request, Ash and myself, not just Allelys, but send the lads back again. They did such a great job, and then subsequently, you get left to crack on and turn the music up a little bit.
Power ballads, get those back on, yeah. I didn't ask you, what's your favourite power ballad? Which one are you going to go with?
Ash is the power ballad.
Oh, is that
king.
it? Is it?
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Okay.
I like a little bit of kind of, a bit of disco, bit of house, anything you can sing to.
Okay. Disco or house.
Yeah.
Go on then, Ash, power ballad. Which one are you going for?
Can we cut it, please? No. I don't know. Just then you can like
a bit of Heart and Alone. Would that be your power ballad of choice?
No. I've got an image of it. You know what I mean?
Okay, he doesn't want to go any further with that one. We'll move on then. All right. So we talked about how Allelys has changed as a company since you've been with it. I mean, even 10 months for you, Angelo, you've seen that change at that time. But what about the industry as a whole? Do you think that's changed perhaps over the last 5 years or so? Has there been big changes around you that you've noticed?
There's definitely been a revamp with this, with net zero and stuff like that. There's definitely been a pace in which things are accelerating on how soon things need to be done. Like with the grid upgrade, you could say, or the electrification of cars and stuff like that.
Yeah,
there's definitely a workload to be done.
The energy sector is going through an enormous transformation, isn't it? I think, and there's so that's just one particular sector, but then there's other opportunity in other markets that utilize kind of heavy lifting, and I think my own experience in heavy lifting probably spans maybe 6 years, and what I've seen myself is like a kind of a shift of professionalism, where there was maybe a lot of companies who were smaller companies, and now there are some large entities, big corporate forces within that market. And in order for those companies to maintain their position, that they've gone through a process of kind of professionalization, of standardizing process, procedure, safety. And I think that's a real positive.
Do you think that's happened because customer expectations have changed, or is that just something that needed to happen?
I think that's always evolving, isn't it? It's, there's always requirements that need to be met. There's always targets that need to be hit, you could say. So it's a tough one, really.
I think there is an expectation from the client that there's peace of mind to work with companies like Allelys that have, a big focus on health and safety, and have a big focus on continuous training and investment in not just their staff, but in new equipment. And I think it's needed.
Do you think the industry's better understood now? Do you think people get what you do, or do you think there's still a bit of mystery from outside?
There's definitely a bit of mystery. Yeah. I think there always will be, won't there? When these girder sets turn up, or they're driving down the public highway, before I started at Allelys, I just thought I didn't have a clue on how they were built.
Yeah.
Anything like that. How did that transformer get inside that? How does that transformer be removed from that? So especially when I joined the business, it was a big eye opener for me.
Yeah, because your background, I mean, you've been in heavy lift for a while, but actually the kind of things you've done have been really varied. I mean, before we started recording, you were talking about these massive puppets that you were moving around in Liverpool. Give us a little bit of an overview of that, because that to what you do now is hugely different, isn't it? Yeah,
it was just, I think how I started in the lifting industry was probably general crane hire. That could have been anything from, hot tubs and back gardens to your general construction sites. But I just wanted to probably work with the biggest cranes, do the biggest lifts, and just always had that hunger, try and do more, try and better myself, and just try and achieve more.
Yeah, I remember. I think there's intrigue and interest in what we do.
Yeah.
And I remember,
Well, it's so eye-catching, isn't it? Because they're such massive things.
yeah,
Everybody's
sure.
like, what's going on here, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of what drew me
Mm.
to the industry. And I think that I remember leaving Harker, I think it was, a site up near Carlisle, and turning over this drive over a bridge, which was across a motorway, and there were hundreds of people just crowding around. And I said, all these people, wasn't expecting this. And it was literally people waiting to watch the girder frame and the transformer come down the motorway. And I think that really articulates very clearly the level of interest and intrigue into what we do. Because how do you move, you know, a load that's maybe 500, 600, 700 tons? It's fascinating.
It is, yeah, completely. And we joked at the beginning about you being a celebrity, but, you know, I mean, you kind of are really. Do you wave when you're going past?
Not at all. I just kind of tip my cap down and be a quiet achiever in the background.
Like that, a quiet achiever. That's a good phrase. That's a good one. Go on then. We should talk about favourite bits of kit, because we've talked about how massive they are as well. So what's the bit of kit that you go, I love that?
I mean, I love it all. I really do. I mean, I guess I've got a particular maybe favourite. I do like working with the mobile gantry cranes, because that's probably what I did more of before I joined Allelys. And it's I'm always in awe when we take delivery of like an enormous transformer and it arrives. You know, you often see me maybe kind of, you know, like running up and down counting the axles, and you know, it really is kind of very, very impressive.
Are you a bit geeky about some of it as well? Do you
Oh,
love
yeah,
that?
100%. Yeah, total geek. Very proud of it. Yeah, I love it all. You know, it really does excite me, light me up. And, no, it's great. Wake up, look forward to going to work.
Great place to be, yeah. Ash, your favourite bit of kit, is there one particular bit that you go, that I love seeing that in action? That's an amazing thing.
It'd probably be the gantry lifts again. Yeah. Like, we just recently done a job and we had to set the gantry up in a public lay-by.
Oh, yeah.
And just seeing the gantry just rising up and just lifting this transformer out the girder frame, you know, it was quite cool.
I mean, there's some great videos on your YouTube at the moment. I mean, as you know, people gathering to actually watch, but the kind of numbers on YouTube, as people really love seeing it, don't they? Yeah. Does that surprise you from a sort of an industry point of view, that suddenly people do come out, or that people do want to see these videos of these massive pieces of machinery in action? Probably not for you, Angelo, because I mean, you love it anyway. So
yeah,
you know.
Absolutely. I would be one of those people. I think if I wasn't, you know, part of the Allelys team, I think I'd probably be stood on top of the bridge myself.
Fair enough. Oh, guys, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And look, if you want to find out more about Allelys, have a look on their website, of course, LinkedIn as well. We've mentioned the YouTube channel. It's definitely worth clicking on there. You'll probably find Angelo on there as well, actually, like looking at geeking out on a few of the machines. Yeah,
definitely.
That's where he hangs around. So yeah, have that, and we'll catch you very soon on the next episode.